Hi there, Mary. Hi, everyone. That's a really good scene setter, and thank you for joining us all. I'm obviously going to talk to you now about the historic environment record and the role that that plays in local listing. So I will bring up my presentation and we shall have a look at that and see what we can learn. So I'm talking to you today, why is the historic environment record, or the HER, important to local listing? So firstly, I think it's really important for all of us here to understand, what is the historic environment record? Well, it's actually an archive with information about all currently known and recorded heritage assets for the project area. So in this case, the County of Somerset and the National Park of Exmoor. And this archive of information is continually growing and is quite vast in number. I mean, in Somerset alone, we have 40,000 records detailing different sites and features and buildings. So what are these records that we hold? Well, back in the day, they were hard copy physical files, journals and library books, and things held in sort of stores and other such places like here at the Heritage Centre. Now there's a great deal of digital resources, and primarily we have a database that records all these 40,000 records. And the nice thing about the database is presented to you, the public, and anyone that's interested, as a sort of web interface, which we shall look at later on in my presentation. And as Mary's been talking about, heritage is a whole range of different asset types. So the historic environment record, while it traditionally focused on archaeology, now is very broad in its scope. So it records sites and finds and monuments, as well as buildings, parks, battlefields and wrecks, so a whole range. And I'm sure, you know, residents of Somerset and Exmoor will have seen many of these sort of features in the areas they live. And you can see from the pictures here, there's a good spectrum to be had here. And the important bit about the HER is it's accessible for research, and that's its prime purpose. And it's used as an evidence base in advice giving, which I think will be covered in later presentations. But more importantly for all of you, it's free of charge. So please do bear this resource in mind when you're thinking about the local list. So why is the HER important for your local list? And this is what we're talking about tonight. Well, the Historic Environment Record records both designated assets, which is your listed buildings and scheduled monuments, and these are things with national statutory responsibilities and protection, but also non-designated heritage assets, which are of equal importance, but perhaps haven't been quite as formally recognised previously. And the good thing about the Historic Environment Record is that you can browse all of the information for both sets here. So that's the one-stop shop for heritage, as a colleague once said to me. Now, the Historic Environment Record will also be where the local heritage list will be stored. And we're hoping that the local heritage list will be a live list. It will continue to grow and alter and expand. And therefore, the HER is an excellent place to put it because it allows that capacity for change. And you can also use the Historic Environment Record, importantly, to track the progress of any nominations you might make, particularly if you're inspired to do so after this session. So putting the local list into the HER does make it an easy place to update. And we are anticipating adding and altering information. It may even be that over time assets are removed from the local list, but the Historic Environment Record has the capacity to record that archive. And as I said previously, the Historic Environment Record is very important because it is the core evidence base for advice giving in Somerset and Exmoor National Park in relation to heritage. So being on the heritage list will give a level of value and weight in decision making. So as you'll all be aware, Somerset has two distinct areas for the local list, the Somerset area and the Exmoor National Park area. And in that case, we have two historic environment records. We have our very own one in Somerset that I work upon, and one for the Exmoor National Park that's worked on by our partners in the National Park Authority. And that HER also includes the Devon part of this, of the national park. So each HER will receive the nominations for their area and will curate the resulting local heritage list records. So where you go to view your local listing nominations will depend on where you're living, but there will also be facility to view both in one place. So please do go and have a look at the websites. There are separate ones for Somerset and Exmoor, and the links are here. And you can see on the right here the images of the Exmoor National Park Historic Environment Record landing page. And it's an excellent website, which I'll be previewing with you all quite shortly. There is also another website called Know Your Place, which will allow viewing of such information, but my colleague Hattie will talk to you later on about that in more detail. So how would you use the HER to inspire your nominations? let's just have a quick look. So first of all, you could go to your local HER, be it the Exmoor or the Somerset one, and have a look at what's recorded for your area. Look on the map, see what there is. It will help you understand the heritage and character. Then you can see, are there any existing nominations for the list in your area? That might inspire you. Has someone else put that building forward you were looking at? Have you seen other examples of that building, or do you think something else is more important? You can identify anything you think is important and have a good look. Then we'd recommend that you double check that your nomination is not already listed or scheduled, because they're national designations and the local list is focusing on things that are not already designated. As Mary said, it's a different process. Assuming that's the case and it's available to be locally listed, then you can do your research. And this really can be as much or as little as you like. You could use the internet or archives. You could go to your local studies library. You could even use the HER itself to look at all those records. Or you could simply use your own local knowledge if you've lived in the area and think you know lots of interesting information that you'd like to share with us. And then when you've compiled your nomination together, you can submit it. And there are 4 different methods that, again, we're covering later in the webinar, so you can choose whichever is most appropriate for you. So I'm going to finish now with 3 quick slides just to show you both the HER for Somerset and for Exmoor and the websites and how you would use them. So with the Somerset HER, you can see the address here, which is www.somersetheritage.org.uk. And you have both a text search and a map search option. So you can enter things like keyword here, or site type, such as pillbox, or factory, or mill, or you could pick a particular period that interests you. Perhaps it's the 1930s or the 17th century. You could enter that here, or alternatively, the parish where you live. At the moment, you can search the whole of the HER, all those 40,000 records, but we are going to make a searchability so you can search only those local list records. And at the moment, we have about 800 for Somerset. And the results will appear in a list and you can click through them. And as I said, it's really good if you're interested in particular themes or dates. But I think most of you will perhaps enjoy the map search more. So you can see here on the right, there's a mapping system for you to look at and use. So you can locate yourself by a place name, such as Taunton or Shepton Mallet, or a grid reference if you know that. You've got an option of backdrop mapping. Here we've got the modern map. There are some historic maps. And you can toggle layers on and off, so you can see if there are listed buildings or scheduled monuments or archaeological sites and monuments. And they're color coded. So as you can see here, the local heritage list, which you can see here as the hashed green lines, is there for you to view, and it will show you the status of the candidate, and also the date of its nomination. You'll be able to track that through. You can also see there are other listed buildings and scheduled monuments. So that's a really good way to sort of track what's happening, and again to sort of see what the sort of status of the list is and what else there is that you could nominate. And if you need any help, there is an email address, and me and my colleague Chris would be very, very happy to help you. And finally, Exmoor National Park have their own HER, and they have an excellent map as well. And it's very, very user friendly. So I heartily recommend using this one. And again, you can locate yourself with a place name or grid reference. The thing about this one that's really good is you've got an easting northing at the bottom. So if you're looking to nominate, you can tell us exactly where, which is great when you're sort of looking at rural features or things that are quite far away from sort of recognizable things. But you can, again, can also choose your map type and turn on the layers on and off, and you can see the key here with those archaeology layers being in green, and there'll be a local list layer. So you click through all of the shapes on the map and they will take you to the detailed Exmoor National Park HER records. So you really can delve as deep as you wish to. And I know from discussions with colleagues there, they're looking to add extra customization to do with the local list very, very shortly. And again, if you need any help, I know my colleagues and partners there will be very, very happy to help you. So you can go to the contact form online or email them for additional assistance. So I'm hoping that quick tour has really sort of shown you what you can actually achieve by using the HER and why it's very, very useful to us in doing the local list. So at this point, I think I'll hand over to my colleague Nick, who I believe is going to discuss the scope of nominations so you can get a further idea of what you might like to put forward. So over to you, Nick.